Welcome back, people. Today's guest features one of the most influential figures in Washington, Coach Dominique Brooks. Coach Brooks is currently the head coach of Nathan Hale High School and EYBL Powerhouse, Seattle Rotary. Coach Dom is impacting kids at all levels, not just in Seattle, but on a global scale. We dive into his basketball journey and learn more about his coaching principles and philosophy. If you are new here, do be sure to make yourself at home by clicking that big red button and subscribing to the channel. Finally, if you're a high school player, coach, or even a parent and want to know more about the process of becoming a collegiate athlete, do be sure to check out our ebook, Under the Radar. It's in the description below. That's enough from me. Enjoy. We now have Coach Dom of Nathan Hale and Seattle Rotary. Appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, I appreciate you being here.
Awesome. So we just want to get more insight on yourself and your journey. So can you tell us about your playing background first?
I grew up here in Seattle, Washington. I grew up playing for the program that I currently coach for now, Seattle Rotary. I graduated from Mount Rainier High School in Seattle. I finished up my playing career playing at UTEP down in El Paso, Texas, and Conference USA. After that, I played a year in British Columbia, Canada, for the Fraser Valley Cascades. During my time there, I was a part of the longest winning streak in program history, 36 games in a row. I was on a team that was Canada West champion and got a chance to build a lot of great lasting relationships during my college time.
That's dope, man. Was there a big difference between Canada and the US?
Yes. In Canada, they play FIBA rules.
Right.
And in the US, we play American rules. And so style of play is completely different. And the approach is completely different offensively. It's a very quick attack. And I credit a lot of that experience into how I choreograph and diagram my offense even to this day as a coach.
That's great, man. And you're making waves at the moment with your coaching. Can you tell us how you got into that and how that got all started?
Like anybody, my goal was to play in the NBA. And I guess you can kind of say coaching's in my blood. My uncle was my high school coach for Seattle Rotary. But it wasn't until, I want to say, I got into college and I got around a guy by the name of Mathis Crowder that really shaped and molded me as a person. And that's when I realized how much of an impact in people's lives you could really have as a coach and as a mentor. And I think that really sparked my coaching passion and my love for coaching, I would say. But for me, I always was in love with the process, I guess I would say, because my first love is actually training. I actually love to train. Working with Coach Mathis at CYM, there were a lot of days where I got to come in being a young coach and run practices and run trainings that I was designing myself. And I won't say this to say that, but I got to experiment a lot with my development of players. And that during that time, it really shaped my training style and development style, as well as my coaching. And it wasn't until recently, I would say about 3 years ago, where my love for coaching actually exceeded my love for training, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even in the short time I was there, man, you actually my first AAU coach. for the small period I was there, which is
Yeah.
um,
And I credit a lot of guys don't know, a lot of the guys that played during that era when I was down there, when they see me now, they just have, they tell me all the time how much they feel like, man, you just deserve the success you get, because they can see the time that we put in. And I think, people tend to think that we exaggerate what the type of conditions that we went through, but they were really molding conditions, and really conditions that shaped you mentally.
After you had some experience there, how did the Nathan Hale coaching job come about?
I actually moved back to Seattle. I moved back to Seattle in 2015, and during that time frame, Nathan Hale, Brandon Roy was the head coach, and Nathan Hale, and it was the emphatic run that they had with Michael Porter Jr. and Jonte Porter, PJ Fuller, Marjon Beauchamp. I mean, the list goes on of the talented players that we had on that roster at Nathan Hale. And so I walked into what I guess people would say in the coaching world as, I walked all the way into a winning situation. And so coming off of the state championship and the national championship, the bar was so high in the program. And we had lost so many players from that team, and so much scoring and rebounding and assisting. You can imagine you lose on a team where you lose 2 NBA players and 2 guys that are 5-star recruits playing in the Big 12 and in the Pac-12. It takes a big hit on the roster. So I came in right away at a time where my development background and my coaching background and my mental development background were really put to the test and really shined, and brought the program together and started that process of developing that culture that players come here and they can get developed. And when they get developed, they're able to showcase, and when they can showcase, they can win, and when they can win, they can be recruited and have the opportunity to go on and play at the highest level possible they can play.
Right. Yeah, no, they had quite a great run. You coming into that situation, would you say that you almost felt some sort of pressure to take it back to the heights or maintain that level that you saw before you arrived?
Just the pressure, a lot of the pressure didn't come initially from the admin. The admin was 100% behind me, but the pressure came from a lot of the players, because rather how good you are, how good you think you are, when you win every game, you're accustomed to winning. And so you almost forget what it feels like to lose.
Right.
And so going through that process, my first year, we took losses, and our players would take it extremely hard because they weren't accustomed to losing. And so again, the mental preparation and the mental development allowed those guys to really be able to work through adversity. And there were a lot of young players that were playing and learning on the fly. So they had to be really, really resilient. And as a staff, we had to really instill confidence in them.
I was fortunate enough to fly out there December of 2019 to see what you guys have going on there. For a player that's interested in making the switch to a U.S. high school from Europe, what can they expect at Nathan Hale and from yourself as a coach?
First off, they're gonna come in right away and expect to get pushed. I mean, right away, anybody that's made the jump will tell you that the competitive play and the competitive edge goes up 10 levels right away, because now the playing field is so large that a guy that may not be as skilled as you, but plays as hard as you, but plays harder than you and is tougher than you, he could actually have some success against you and derail the things that you're trying to do. And so I think the biggest thing for me right away is coaching my players up and developing that competitive edge. And then, hey, knowing that when you come here, it's not always going to be easy, but it will be beneficial with the development that we're going to do. And that's not just on the court, but that's in the weight room, that's in the classroom, that's in your athletic development, that's in your mental development, that's in your basketball IQ. All of these things combined allow players making that transition to come over and be able to kickstart their career and be able to make that transition and be successful a lot sooner.
So you coaching high school and AAU and in the EYBL, does your approach change when you're coaching those summer teams in comparison to during the fall with the high school team?
The standard never changes for me in terms of who I'm coaching. I could be coaching the number one player in the country, Michael Porter or Paolo Banchero, or I could be coaching a guy that's playing on the freshman team. The things that I expect are the things that I expect, and those are the standards. I expect everyone to play hard. I expect everyone to communicate. It doesn't matter your talent level. There's certain expectations that I expect from basketball players. And so the standard remains the same, but the execution is the tug and pull portion. When you're coaching higher level players, you expect higher level execution. And when you coach higher level players, especially on the EYBL, when you're playing against the best high school players in the world, you're really trying to find your advantage and exploit the advantage. And the better players you have, then the more advantages you'll have. And for me, coaching the best players, I try to put together a system where it highlights them, but then it also highlights everybody else around them and puts them in positions where they can be successful and showcase their skill set. And so those things are the same, but I think in terms of your trust and your leash and your freedom, you're able to give those elite players a little bit more reign than you do the guys that you're developing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because with high school, it's more of like a long-term project with the players. You know, you'll get them for a number of years, but AAU, it's a short period. So what is the emphasis with how big of a role does development come into those AAU players during that summer?
Development is everything, and development is everything 12 months out of the year. I explain to people in the simplest form that basketball is at two stages. You're either at the development stage or you're at the showcase stage. And those are two bubbles that are very big but very small in the same realm. The development stage pool is huge. There's players in the development pool that may be 80 or 90th in the country, but they're still in the development pool, along with the players that are unranked. They're in that development pool. And then there's some players that are in the showcase pool that aren't ranked. Just like there's some players that are ranked in the top 100 that are in the showcase pool. It's all about what stage you're at in your own personal career and your development. Jaden McDaniels, he had his first start last night for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was the 14th overall draft pick in this year's NBA draft. He was a kid that played high school and was unknown, virtually unknown until his junior summer. And he was in the development pool all the way up until that time. It just so happened that when he hit the EYBL, his game was actually ready to move into the showcase portion. And so when you're able to showcase and you have that type of platform behind you, you can go from unranked to number 4 in the country and parlay that into going to 1 year of college and then straight to the NBA and then be starting in your 18th game as an NBA player. And now that's a lot of development in between those times, but he was ready to showcase when it was time to showcase. And the guys that are developing, you don't want to showcase before you're at the showcase stage, because then the product isn't showcase level product. So no one goes, people go to the dollar store because they know they can spend $1. They don't go to the dollar store expecting to spend $10 on an item.
Right.
And so until you're at that point where you can showcase product that's scholarship worthy, and when I say scholarship worthy, I mean at a multitude of levels, then hey, you want to limit your exposure until you are ready.